All right. Good morning. This is Raph from Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms, streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, or I should say this morning, I have Neindorf and a very special guest, Mr. Zipper, with me. Say hi, guys.
Welcome,
Hey,
listeners.
hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We now have YouTube live as well as Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. So go ahead and drop a subscribe there if you can. That would be greatly appreciated, and that really helps us out. So, Mr. Zipper, why don't you go ahead and give us your own personal introduction? I know that you made the hero bot, and I've been using that religiously every time I've summoned. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great, thanks so much, and thanks again for having me. I've been just kind of hanging out in DeFi Kingdoms for since kind of mid-September or so. I got here just early enough to hit the good APRs and the LPs, but not quite early enough to get enough Jewel for a Gen Zero. But I've been just hanging out in this community, really love all of the depth of the whole thing, and so I've just been trying to dig into mechanics and some of the details of stuff. As you mentioned, I started working on this hero bot that last month finally made it into the official Discord. It was something that I started working on really just shortly after the Geno sale, to have a way to quickly look up info, and we've been able to add some new features to that. I'm also the author of the weekly newsletter, The Heroes Hold, which you may be familiar with on Medium, and just trying to go over some hero details, some news, some aggregated stats and stuff like that, and just keep the community informed about what's going on in the game. So it's been a real blast to be a part of this community and to hang out with all of you.
Yeah, awesome. And on behalf of the community, thank you very much. Like I said, I've been using the hero bot for about everything I do now. So thank you very much for that.
Great.
All right, Neindorf, why don't you take us to the question of the day?
Given all that's kind of been going on in some of the Discord chats and on the DFK wiki site there, uh, I feel like it's appropriate. Would you guys sell your Locks Jewel, or would you buy other people's Locks Jewel? I think is where I'm at right now.
Wow, great question. And so, for those of you who don't know, there was and I think it was a relatively recent feature that allows you to have a contract to send all of your lock jewel from a single MetaMask address to another MetaMask address. And so the DFK wiki team that's been doing escrow for heroes long before the tavern opened up, they started doing an escrow service for sending lock jewel. And I think I saw them actually release some number on Twitter that they have like um, helped transition like 1 million USD
It was a
worth
hundred
of
million USD,
a hundred.
actually.
Yeah, that's even crazier.
Wow.
100 million of USD safely, keeping it out of the hands of scammers. So a big thanks to those two and the incredible work that they're doing. And so people have been starting to sell and buy their lock jewel. It seems like on large wallets, the price of Jewel is going anywhere between, I would say, what I've seen is like anywhere between like $4 and $7, from what I'm looking at. And so, what a great question, Neindorf. And I would say for me, I'd be tempted if I could get off my Jewel bag for somewhere between 10 and 15. Have too much confidence in the game right now that it feels like I'd be making a short-sighted decision. If I could sell it for something like 10 or 15, honestly, I'd probably just take those earnings and dump them into the gardens. And so I think I really doubt
Uh,
that that because of that the price is going to go that high. I think it's going to stay, probably pretty low. How about you, Mr. Zipper?
Yeah, I don't think I would sell. Like you, I'm too in it long term. I would certainly be tempted to buy if the price were right, but I just don't have that kind of liquidity, and in order to get the price low enough, it would have to be a large enough bag that I definitely couldn't afford it. So I'll just keep watching from the sidelines and keep farming what I'm farming, and hope that everything goes well in the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Liquidity is a good point too. And it's like, as we pass these two Gen Zeros around, I always need to keep a fair amount because it seems like every, couple weeks I end up doing about four summons with Gen Zeros. And, that's actually a fair amount of jewel right there. So I think if I had the liquidity, I might buy it. And then in terms of sell, I think you're probably right, Ref. If it comes down to like 50% or maybe even 40% of real world jewel value right now, I might consider it. And then, yeah, your strategy of sticking it right back in the gardens is fantastic. I think that would be a really smart play.
Yeah, and it's just so challenging to think through, the next 2 months. I think could really be a liquidity pinch for everyone. Crystal Vale
Yeah.
is opening up. There's going to be the single staking crystal or jewel staking for crystal that is going to open up with some insane APRs. There's a lot of speculation that when everyone moves their jewel over to Crystal Vale, that then the Serendale jewel gardens, those APRs are going to skyrocket because if you leave your value there, you're going to have a higher portion of the pool. That land is releasing as well, and potentially amulets will be coming out soon too. So and then pets might be hatching, and so it feels like you really have to start thinking a little longer term about what do I want to spend my jewel on, and where do I think I'm going to be successful. So gosh, yeah, great question, and tough one to think about. All right, so last week we talked about the AMA, and we got a really fun shout out by the team. The creative team, Cinnabon, actually saying that there is no lore around the hot air balloon. And so, just a reminder to our community that help us come up with some stories about the hot air balloon. We're really looking forward to developing that. We are also going to start creating a community Discord, a slightly smaller Discord. I think of it as a fork off of the DFK Discord right now, which gets pretty meme heavy at the moment. So we're going to send some information out on YouTube and on Anchor, and so when you log into the podcast, you'll be able to go find that Discord invite. And anyways, as I digress. One of the things that I'm really excited about right now, and I have an extra special question of the day to tease into it. So, all right, I have a question for you guys, and we'll see if you guys can figure it out. What do the movies Jaws, Home Alone, Superman, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones all have in common?
Oh man, that's a very random mix of movies and shows. I mean, they all have a heart, a place in my past, I guess, for me personally. I don't know about you, Mr. Zipper.
I'm wondering if they all have music composed by John Williams, actually.
Bingo, spot on.
Oh, yes.
Very well done. Very well done. So, there was a DFK contest here recently, and there was some great community music that was developed. And so I reached out to one of the winners, and it's a pair of individuals, Boolene and Mike Dialga, and the music is actually made by Mike Dialga. And I'm going to go ahead and share for you guys what's going to be our new intro song into the podcast. So I'm
Oh,
really excited
jeez.
about this,
Nice.
and I'll play a little bit of a longer version, so it'll be about a minute long. The typical intro will probably only take 10-15 seconds, and then at the end of the podcast, we'll actually include all of this, and we'll go ahead and link to Mike. In he has a SoundCloud account, and so definitely go check him out, support him. It's awesome. I'm so thankful that he's letting us use his amazing music as an introduction. So let me set up the streaming of that. One moment, guys. pretty cool, huh?
That is the best.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really epic.
yeah, it is really epic. It really brings me back to there's like a boss theme in Final Fantasy VII, which is my favorite of the Final Fantasy VII games. And so right when you get about to that minute time frame, and that guitar, that's what it really reminds me of. It really takes me back. So I love it, and please go support him on SoundCloud, and we're going to go ahead and link all of his information in the show notes too. So big thank you to those guys for allowing us to use some of that music. So thank you very much. All right,
Oh yeah,
well,
no doubt. That's amazing.
yeah. So let's go to since we have Neindorf and Mr. Zipper here, we have a new segment that we're calling our Dev Dive, and I'm gonna try to queue up a few questions, and then I'm gonna take a back seat and just put my listening ears on, because you guys are absolutely the experts in this. So, um, Neindorf, why don't you go ahead and take us away? There's an incoming API v6. Tell us what you know about that.
Yeah, so from what we've heard, it's kind of rebuilt from the ground up by a new guy they brought onto the dev team. And I think from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Zipper, but it seems like the goal of this is to have, increased throughput and reliability, and also to add support for some of that cross-chain syncing. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I'm definitely not a back-end developer, so I'm far out of my element here. But I think the idea anyway is to redo the way that the API is indexing the information from the blockchain, so that we can finally put all of these tavern issues behind us for good, because those have been a real issue this past week. I know that it's in very late stage alpha. I think it, might have even been slated for this patch that we were supposed to get last night, if not, maybe very soon. So really excited about that coming through and hopefully putting some of these issues behind us.
Yeah, I think I've been looking, and no matter where I look at the game, it's always stuck on the same block number that ends in 523. I'm like, oh, please roll past block 523.
Absolutely. It is so exciting. We finished this transaction tracker bounty a couple of weeks ago, and some of the apps that were developed by that have kind of made it into public attention. And this was by far the one that got the most attention, just by really taking all of the data from the blockchain and just turning it into readable information from the games. You can see, all your quest rewards, all your garden transactions. It's just fantastic, and we should shout out Josh and Joseph, who were the two devs of that, who just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for
and
that.
I've heard some. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, thank you for calling out their names. I certainly did not have that top of mind, and also I think something here for our listeners, a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm recovering from a bit of a cold, if you can't tell, and I think I accidentally muted my recording mic here for a moment while I blowed my nose. And so I think our listeners probably missed my question, which was, have you guys been using the DFK tracker app? So sorry for the technical difficulties. And Neindorf, why don't you tell us how you've been using the DFK tracker app?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. I like the one little feature I think is really cool is it shows you your daily revenue. I don't know why that's exciting, but it's just like, you have all these heroes, and people have always been asking the question, well, this is a play to earn game, right? Well, what am I earning? And it was very hard to see that, and I think this site's it's just really cool. Although today I have earned 0.00, which is sad, but that's okay, I suppose.
All
Yeah,
right,
it is
so
really nice to see that. So it's good to put some actual numbers to it, and I love the cents per stamina that you've earned from each hero, to be able to say like, oh yeah, he's earned 7 cents for every stamina that they've spent, and that actually starts to get you a sense of how valuable these heroes are.
yeah,
That's
that's pretty
awesome.
awesome. I also really like that if you look at the tavern page, I like that it gives you, if you kind of hover over the heroes, it gives you a approximate value based on current sale prices. That has been really instrumental in who I'm listing and what I'm listing them for. That's been a big time saver and quality of life improver for me.
I'm
So
also curious how they got the hero images. I know there's been some chat and back and forth on some of the discords about, rendering the heroes out of the game, and they apparently cracked that and figured out how to do it, which is really awesome.
yeah, I was super impressed by that. That's been something that's been a thorn in everybody's side. I know one of the two of them, I think, is basically just a React developer, and so I guess that was enough to figure out how to reverse engineer the whole thing, but totally beyond my skill set.
Likewise.
Well, it's pretty awesome that we have, whether it's music development, and development coming in all sorts of different forms. It's such a great community here. So, big thanks to everyone involved. Any other apps that you're enjoying right now, Mr. Zipper?
Um, I feel like most of my time has been spent. I mean, of course, there's Kingdom Watch, which we all know and love, and has been so useful for many of us. And now the DFK tracker are both great. I know the DeFi Wiki app has seen some development recently too, although I think that got put on hold a bit when the Lock Jewel escrow started.
Right.
Um, but I think it'll be really interesting to see what other apps do come out of this transaction tracker, because as great as DFK tracker is, it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't quite answer the question of like, what is the app that you need to do your taxes? And I think some of the other ones that were developed really focus a little more on that aspect pretty specifically. So it'll be really interesting to see what comes from some of those once we get to hear a little more about them.
Yeah, they haven't announced the winner yet, have they?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So we'll eagerly anticipate that, and then I'm sure they'll have links to all those tools for the community.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
it'll be really
Nindorf,
exciting.
any other chatter that's sticking out to you on the developer Discord?
Um, some of it also, I was asking some questions to some people, and they had some good insights into some of these harmony issues. And, I think what it really comes down to is, a lot of I'll say it, the marketing jargon about harmony, the blockchain itself, is kind of falling a little short with the load being placed upon it by DFK. It's like they're supposed to be able to support all these transactions per second, multiple shards. From what I've learned is shard zero is really the only one that has RPC support. I think they said I forget who if it was, I forget who on the chat said it, but I think he said that one of the other shards has maybe one RPC endpoint, like for the whole shard. So, we were floating around the idea of what happens if DFK just went to its own shard. And it's like, well, there's no support for that on the blockchain yet. So, I don't know if you've heard anything like this, Mr. Zipper. I just thought it was really interesting to know that it kind of Harmony's advertisements aren't quite standing up yet, and they need a little bit of work there.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's a ecosystem under development, so I guess we'll just have to see, where they get at this point, and really once they can put these RPC issues behind them, see what the rest of the development looks like. They've got a really ambitious roadmap, so we'll see if they can keep delivering on it, I guess.
All right, well, let's transition to the combat corner now. And I'm really excited to recklessly speculate about hero stats and about what combat might have in store, and then talk about some of the hidden data and the abilities that a lot of our users who now have access to the alert system. I think you said, Neindorf, that every single person is looking for the elite and transcendent skilled heroes, and so
They
let's,
should be anyway.
yeah, with Mr. Zipper here, I want to talk about that a little bit. So, I guess let's first start by talking about what, Mr. Zipper, what do we know about hero abilities right now?
Yeah, so I mean, the short answer is not a lot. This is probably the one thing that we know the least about in terms of the way that heroes work or are going to work. And this is one of the reasons that I think we're mostly just not really talking about it. It's the reason that it's not in most of the apps, including my own, that that put out genes and stuff like that. Is that like there's just no really useful information to come from it right now. So to take a step back anyway, there are a couple of genes in every hero, and I mentioned this in my article, that are active one, active two, passive one, and passive two. And these genes have, and I think you guys have talked about this before, so I don't want to reiterate too much, but most of them have the ability of basic 1 through basic 8, and it doesn't matter what class you are or anything else, they have these abilities, but some of them are also advanced, some are elite, and some are transcendent. And it seems like these abilities kind of mirror the mutation tier that class follows with the basic, advanced, elite, and exalted heroes. So these are mutable abilities. They do mutate when they're paired up correctly, to get these more advanced ones. But again, we have no idea what they are. But it seems like these are going to be abilities that will be used for combat, I think.
Well,
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And something else that I noticed, I feel like these devs are extraordinarily forward thinking. If you look at the raw number that say represents, I don't know, Elite One, that they've spaced the numbers out if you think of it as like an enumeration, because I believe that they'll probably even leave spaces for some of these new genes coming in from the new realms.
Yep.
That's something I've been thinking about. Is like, why else would they have skipped numbers and they didn't pack them tightly? I guess is what I'm saying. So
Yeah, this
I
is
think. Go ahead.
so this is crazy, and something that I think all of us noticed initially is that the data coming off the blockchain, and this is how the heroes work too, is that the first set of basic classes are 0 through 7, and then advanced classes are 16 through 19, and so that actually leaves a space of 8, which is exactly what we know, that there are going to be new classes, 2 from each of the 4 blockchain expansions that they're planning. So like this whole thing was planned out from the beginning.
yeah,
That's
it's
amazing. I
so
mean,
impressive. That team, and especially when you hear like Hubert start to drop, as Sandwich Punch calls it, the sacred text of Hubert, his quick Discord notes. Every time you see something there, it's gold, and you can really tell how well thought out it is. And it just even with like the release of the value that you're getting from quests, it just seems so well thought out. So thank you for that introduction. And I guess Neindorf, tell us, you have a hero with one of these hidden abilities. Is that right?
yeah, I managed to get one. It's a common monk, so on the surface it doesn't look like much, but it says it has an elite active skill, which I'm really excited about.
And then, Mr. Zipper, if you could clarify, and again, this is a bit speculatory, but am I right to assume that the active abilities are the ones that my hero actually has access to, but the passive abilities are ones that could pass down through summoning genetics? Is that right?
Actually, no, it's not. All 4 of them, both active and passive, are genetic in the same way. So I
Okay.
think actually what we're looking at, and this is something that I keep teasing periodically, but if you go way back in the Discord to like mid-September, Sinstar in his I think very first hero card reveal, and I'll send this to you guys so you can post it, posted an image of the hero card, and one of them flips around, and it's a rogue. And on the back of the card, it actually lists 4 skills. And the skills on this card, anyway, are Sandstorm, Rage, Counter, and Evade.
Okay.
And and this is the only time we've seen anything like this. Again, back early in September, and I suspect anyway that those 4 abilities are map in one way or another on the 2 actives and the 2 passives. So it may be more in terms of combat ability, like an active kind of attack ability versus a passive like a shield or evade or something like that. Could be some choices that you could make in combat. I don't know. It's totally speculative, but like those are there, and it's really interesting to look at that and just kind of try to map it to what we know about some of this.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I think that was the speculation that I had as well. Because there's in all your RPG games in the past, yeah, I think you nail it with evade. It's like it's just that passive chance that you have to, dodge or something, and then the active skill. Yeah, I think that's the one where an attack or a defense, or maybe it's a supporting skill. Um, and so I think that's going to be right on the money. And I'm excited to see that all these skill points that we're banking up when we level up our heroes, you know,
Yeah.
I believe you're going to be applying those to these skills, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, I tried to ask Hubert about that in an AMA a long time ago, and he was really slippery about it, which is fine. But we've got those skill points now, and the other thing on this little card too that it says is next to each of those abilities there's a level 1, level 2, level 3, and I wasn't sure at first. I kind of was wondering if those mapped to the basic, advanced, elite sort of thing, but now I'm wondering actually if those are the level that you've put skill points into it.
Sure, sure.
So all sorts of just stuff that we don't know anything about yet, which is so exciting.
Yeah, in that, and I think I remember that AMA. One of the things that stuck out to me that Hubert said that I really liked was that they actually made an effort to balance all of the class stats based on that future combat capability. And I think that's something to, not forget about, is that there might be some heroes right now for those of you who are just getting into the game, that, may not be warrior or knight miners, which are going for an absolute premium because of this,
Yeah.
the ability to grab that unlocked jewel. And you may find some deals with other heroes that eventually will have a balance in the game from a combat ability standpoint, especially if you could get a more advanced skill on top of that hero too. So something to think about for some of our listeners is, maybe if you don't have a ton of jewel available, think about some of that the long term of the game, and maybe start preparing yourself for that PvE or PvP combat.
Honestly, I am of the opinion that no hero in this game is useless. That would just not make sense. So I think, even those common heroes, even the ones without advanced abilities, like you're still going to be able to level them up to gain skills, to send them on quests and do combat. Like, no, you're not going to rank number one on the PvP ladder with a common monk, but you need to rank number one on the PvP ladder. You know, there's going to be, I think, a lot of stuff that you can do with every single hero in the game, and once you start, leveling them, they're going to have, some intrinsic value to them as well.
So knowing,
That's a good
so
point.
here's kind of my next reckless speculation question. Knowing some of what we do about the blockchain, do we feel like this is going to be a turn-based, or kind of a live yet, structured or automated, role-based combat system? And so I think kind of the two directions that things could go is it turn-based, where you actually have a transaction fee every time you choose to attack or use an ability, or more of a live system where your hero can use an attack X number of ticks, and you can still create transactions to set what it's going to do, but it does it in almost like a, I think of some of the old Final Fantasy games where they'll just keep attacking after you hit the do button, and everything will be based on percentage rolls. Where do you think this is going, Neindorf?
Yeah, so I thought about that a little bit too. I feel like I'd heard the devs say that they wanted some live action involved in this, and maybe if that's the case, maybe it would just be something where after the action is completed or the battle has finished, maybe then it rolls up into a transaction that gets posted, kind of like the results of the battle, maybe.
Hmm.
So I think it
Hmm.
could go that way too. That's honestly how I see it going, just because I could have sworn I heard someone mention that it would be more live action.
What about you,
I
Mr. Zipper?
think, even in our most recent AMA, I'm pretty sure we saw there was some discussion about using controller abilities, the WASD, or actual controllers to like move around. And they have Unity developers on the team, so like they're definitely thinking about some more live, kind of interactive play. I don't know yet if that'll translate into combat or if it'll be kind of the maybe not a turn-based, the point of every single action that you take has to be a blockchain transaction, because that's going to get really expensive really quickly on some of these other networks. But I don't know. We'll see about that. It may be kind of something that's kind of hybrid in between those things. But I don't know. We'll see.
And on the roadmap here, I have this up for our watchers on YouTube. I don't think I have it displayed for you guys to see yet, but Phase 6, the battle system, PvE and PvP, it says heroes will be able to form parties of 3 and compete in regular PvP tournaments, which will award jewel prizes. And that's it. So it's certainly we're kind of piecing together information to, like I said, try to recklessly speculate on what could be coming down the road. But that's a lot of fun. Well, let's talk a little bit about health and mana potions. Those are now open with the Alchemist, and will probably start to play into, maybe even profession quests where heroes will be challenged and, have to consume some of their health or some of their mana in order for them to, make it through the quest. There's also the stamina potions, which I've been making a lot of those. I think I'm up to 8 now. I think those are going to be a little bit like rare candies in Pokemon. And so I think they're going to be kind of that, if you've been lagging behind on leveling up your heroes, you could drop a few stamina potions. How do you guys feel that these are going to be used? I guess let's go to you first, Mr. Sipper.
Yeah, it's really interesting to start speculating, and it's kind of funny that they're releasing these so early on. It's like, okay, great, we've got these health and mana pots, but like when when is health and mana going to actually be used?
Right.
And maybe maybe there will be, as you say, some of these PvE quests that maybe aren't necessarily combat in like the explicit sense, but could involve stamina or mana consumption. So it'll be interesting to see, when we get to start using those. Of course, we've heard that stamina potions will be usable very soon. So yeah, that's going to be real expensive if you want to spend a bunch of those to try to extra level your heroes. Because I mean, it's what at best, maybe about 100 and at best 150-ish XP per full stamina bar. So that's going to be pretty expensive if you want to down, you know, 10 or 20 of those to try to get through, one of your low levels. But I don't know. It'll be exciting to find out.
Yet, for someone who has a strong stable of foragers and fishers, I'm also hopeful that, in some ways that does impact the price and could create a little more value for those heroes too. What do you
Yeah,
think, Nindorf?
absolutely.
Yeah, I, I guess maybe sort of tangentially related here. I'm just sort of curious now. Some of the terms we've been mentioning, far as quests, obviously there's profession quests. We've been talking about possible combat quests, and then there's adventure quests. I mean, maybe that's worth just discussing briefly here. I mean, is there? I'm a little confused between these sometimes now. What's combat versus adventure? Do you guys have any input on that?
That's a great question, and I guess I'm not sure. I think I kind of lump those in a little bit, but on the other hand, this most recent AMA where they were talking about this flagging system and all of these, ability to do quest chains and stuff like that, really, I mean, opens the door to a whole range of possibilities. I think Hubert has mentioned things like turn-in quests as well, so I feel like there could be adventure quests. We have these class quests as well that got mentioned that may not necessarily involve combat, but could involve needing to collect items, needing to do professions first in order to gather stuff, or I guess just pay for it. So yeah, I don't know. There's lots of possibilities there.
And I have here displayed, and this isn't always the most up to date information. In fact, I would say probably getting nuggets from the AMAs is probably a little better off, but they do describe a couple quest types: profession and dungeon raiding slash PvE. All right, well, that's some good reckless speculation on the combat. Let's go to leveling up and summoning. Uh, what's your guys' current level up strategy? Nindorf, kick us off.
Yeah, so for leveling, I think runes have been coming relatively consistently. So I've just kind of been leveling up all my heroes as I have runes available. And I think as we get into level 5 and 6, that's probably going to have to slow down, and I'll just have to start picking, the guys I want to keep long term. And then far as summoning, I think if you're I haven't done a whole lot lately, and then as you guys know, my turn will be here coming up with our two Gen Zeros later today if the chain gets back off the ground. So I can talk about that too. I think I'm probably just going to keep going for quantity. I need to find another pirate to go with the monk I made the last turn, and I'm hoping I can in my turn get a pirate that also has that recessive as a pirate, so I get that increased chances for a ninja offspring, as we talked about with Sandwich Punch.
Right, right. Well, Mr. Zipper, how are you approaching leveling up right now?
Yeah, well, in line with what I said earlier, that every hero is valuable, I am leveling everything, for the time being anyway. What keeps me thinking about that is all of the discussion about future profession quests that it will require. Maybe not level gated, but certainly skill gated. But also the fact that we're going to be needing to send our heroes on some kind of quest to get the chance to buy land.
Hmm.
And I am fairly confident that those are going to require some leveled up heroes. We also know about a future airdrop of some sort for people who have been leveling. So I'm just leveling everything right now. I think they'll all have value at some point. I'm going to run out of runes really soon at this point, but I think the leveling will slow down too, as it takes longer and longer to get that level up, especially once we get to level 5 and beyond.
And I think the heroes are also going to become a lot more valuable. Just like I'm speculating that, stamina potions are going to become valuable. Um, if a whale comes into the game, they're not going to want to, pay to start at level 1 or level
Nope.
0. They're going to want to pay to start at level 10 or whatever the current approximate level ceiling or level cap is with heroes. And so I also think that, some of these even common questers that might be in your questing army are going to have a lot more value someday, and I think it's a great idea, and I'm also leveling everything up, and that's something that I was thinking I wouldn't do early on, and I've certainly changed my strategy.
Yeah, me too, actually. I started by leaving a number of my common questers behind and then realized that I didn't want to do that, and now they're all behind. So,
Yeah, it's certainly a game of catch up for sure. All right, well, let's talk quick about and we won't go into this a ton because it is, I don't know. I've read through it like a dozen times, and I'm still not quite sure I fully understand the formula here. But Mr. Zipper, I guess give us a really high level overview. When you hit level 5, you now have the ability to infuse tears um, when you summon per hero that you have that is level 5. And when
mhm.
you're able to do that, then you can give your child hero additional stats. Is that right?
That is correct. So we've got here, I think, up in the docs, a whole bunch of really detailed stuff, and I'd love to see this cleaned up and put in a table because it's a little hard to follow at this point. But the way it's going to work is that at level 5, as you said, um, for each summoning hero that you have that's level 5, you can pay 10 extra tiers, and just at level 5 anyway. The 10 tiers that you spend per hero will pass on a +1 to a stat. And the stat that gets passed on is whatever that parent hero's highest stat is. This child hero will get a +1 to that stat. And that's just at level 5. So, level 5, you can have a summoned hero with, +2 stats. So we'll say if you're trying to summon a Dread Knight, you've got a Sage and a Dragoon, and the Sage is going to have its highest stat at either int or wisdom, and the Dread Knight will probably have its highest stat at strength. So those are going to be the +1s that go on to that child hero. Um, and so like you will know exactly what they are, which is really helpful. And that's essentially the same as a green stat bonus,
Hmm.
maybe split up, but like that's really cool. But then after that, so at level 10, at level 15, at level 20, there are additional different kinds of bonuses. So at level 10, you're actually going to increase the hero's primary stat growth rate, so it'll level a certain stat faster. and that's kind of like the blue boost that we see on our heroes. And so each one of these stages goes through kind of a loop. There's 9 different bonuses that happen, and really the confusing part about this loop is just that after 9 it goes back to 1 again. So I think that's once you hit level 50, then it kind of goes back to the first thing again. So it's kind of confusing, but what we need to know for right now anyway. So at level 5 you can increase your hero stats by up to 2.
Awesome, thank you for that. Yeah, like you said, it's pretty much like a free stat boost. So that's pretty neat. And Neindorf, I know we've been looking or monitoring the price of the Gen Zero market as it's fluctuated over the last few weeks. How do you think this is going to impact the price of Gen Zeros in the future?
Think Neindorf had to step away for
Oh,
just a moment anyway.
oh
But
yeah, he
I
has
mean,
some
I'll
he has some sick Gen ones at home that he's taking care of. So yeah, Mr. Zipper, why don't you give us your thoughts on it then?
yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to speculate on that too. I mean, I think it will absolutely increase the value of Gen Zeros, and this, gets back to our point about leveling, just kind of more broadly. I think the Gen Zeros are the heroes that need to be leveled first because, they will, they're the ones that are making new heroes. So that's going to be a huge deal. They will absolutely increase in value, I think, because of this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it for sure. And as I think I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I'm trying to summon as much as I can right now to get a small percentage chance for a shiny Gen Zero for Crystal Vale. I'm really excited about that. All right, well, Mr. Zipper, any closing remarks that you might have for the listeners out there?
I just want to say thanks to the community. It's been so exciting to just to see all of the positive response to everything that I've been putting out there, to the HeroBot, to all of my articles. I'm just, I'm having a blast. It's a lot of fun. I'm happy to, answer everybody's questions in Discord as I'm frequently doing. And just thanks for having me, guys. It's been a blast.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for your time. It's fantastic, and keep up the great work. And again, on behalf of the community, thank you for everything that you've done. Certainly using all of these tools. So, well, this is it for Raf and Neindorf from Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms, and a big thank you to Mr. Zipper. And we'll be back on a podcast probably in the next couple days, sometime this weekend once the game resumes playability to talk through some Gen Zero summoning. So thank you very much for listening and have a good day.